Hey guys, it's Mrs. Price. I'm just here for lesson two. I want to just go over it with you guys. Um, First, we have the vocabulary for the early Renaissance. Um, we've got, rivalry, which is a noun. It's a competition or a situation in which people or groups are competing with each other. Two is a dome. It's a noun. A large rounded roof or ceiling. A guild is a noun. It's an organized group of people who make or sell specific goods. Lottery is a noun. A system used to decide who will get something based on choosing names or numbers by chance. Stance is a noun, a way of standing. Six, embodiment, a noun, someone or something that is a representation or example of an idea, concept, etc. Apprentice, number seven, it's a verb to learn a skill or trade by working with a skilled craftsman for a period of time. Um, and eight is theme, which is a noun. It's a main subject being discussed in a piece of writing or depicted in a piece of art. Okay, so those are the 8 words for chapter two. Um, right here are the pronunciations for the important people that we need to know for chapter two. Okay, we may have to refer back to that. Let's see. Uh, One thing I wanted you guys to look at. We have quickly. We have this is page 33 here in the workbook, and we're looking at prefixes that are m and n, and they mean not. It's kind of like the prefixes that we went over before, ear, ir, and il. Um, and these prefixes mean not. And so what we're to do here, guys, is you notice that there are some information that's missing. So we have the root word that goes on this side, okay, and that's in bold. And then you have the affixed word, which is the root word plus the prefix. So that's the affixed word along with the part of speech. And so we're starting right here with the affixed word, immobile, not mobile. It's an adjective, not able to move. And so over here, you would put mobile. Okay, it's just the total opposite of what's on this side. Mobile, also an adjective, able to move. Okay, you come down here, same thing. Audible, it's an adjective, able to be heard, also loud enough to hear. On this side, it's inaudible, in, audible. It's an adjective, not able to be heard, loud enough to hear. Okay? And so what I want you to do, just look at each of these, okay? And I want you to write the opposite. What would be the root word of this right here? If this is the prefix, what is the root word? Okay? And then obviously incorrect is having mistakes or errors. So this over here would be what? And we'll go over it. And then next you have patient. What would go on this side? Part of speech is going to be the same. Okay, guys? And then you have incomplete. It's an adjective. Not finished, lacking some parts. What would go over here if it's just the root word and not the affixed part with the prefix and the root? Okay, so what would go over here? So I want you to work on that too. Let's go ahead and get started with our reading. Let me just flip it over here. Okay, and this is chapter two. The big question here is, what are techniques and features of the Renaissance art and architecture? So here is, this is the early Renaissance, and this is actually a fairly large, I mean, not large, but excuse me, long chapter. Um, I might go ahead and read it and see how much we can get done. If I feel like we're not going to be finishing up together in the 15 minutes that I have for this lesson. I might have you guys finish it up, okay? And then we'll talk about it later. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So this is the early Renaissance. What an exciting time to be alive. Painters, sculptors, architects, and philosophers were buzzing with ideas. With help from wealthy families and the church, they created splendid projects. Let's meet three important artists from the early Renaissance. Brunelleschi loses. Before Filippo Brunelleschi devoted himself to architecture, he worked as a goldsmith. In 1401 CE, when the city council of Florence invited artists to submit ideas for decorating the huge doors of a religious building called the baptistry, Brunelleschi created a beautiful design. But his design didn't win. The winning design was submitted by Lorenzo Ghiberti. When Ghiberti found out that he'd won, he bragged, "I have surpassed everyone." The Florence City Council offered to allow Brunelleschi to work as Ghiberti's assistant, but Ghiberti flatly refused his help. This started a lifelong rivalry between the men. After losing the contest, Brunelleschi decided to explore his interest in architecture. In the spirit of the Renaissance, he looked back to classical times. Brunelleschi wins. As the years passed, Brunelleschi took what he learned from the ancient Romans and began to develop his own ideas about architecture. Brunelleschi, like other Renaissance artists, began to move away from the complex medieval style of architecture in favor of the balance and symmetry of ancient Greek and Roman architecture. He had previously traveled to Rome to study, isn't that beautiful, Roman ruins, and had been inspired by the dome of the Pantheon. This inspiration came in handy when, in 1418 CE, the Guild of Wool Merchants in Florence announced another competition. They wanted to find someone who could solve a difficult architectural problem: how to put a roof over a huge space. The space was over the middle of the Cathedral of Florence. Work had begun on the cathedral 80 years before Brunelleschi was even born, but it still wasn't finished. The plans called for a roof to be placed over the middle of the church, an area 136 feet wide. For years, the architects of Florence had been arguing about how to build this roof. Some people said it was impossible, but Brunelleschi approached the wool merchants and announced that he could do it. How? He had an idea for how to cover the space with a dome. When the guild members demanded to see his plans, Brunelleschi refused. He claimed that they would steal his ideas. To illustrate his point, Brunelleschi brought an egg to a guild meeting. Imagine you were a guild member at this meeting. You hear Brunelleschi ask, "Can any one of you make this egg stand on its head without toppling?" No one replies, so Brunelleschi cracks the egg on the table and balances it on its jagged top. One of your fellow guild members sneers or laughs. "We could have done that." But Brunelleschi responds, "That's precisely my point. If I tell you my plans to build the dome, you'll say you knew how to do it all along." In the end, the guild members chose Brunelleschi to undertake the project. But then they got cold feet. They thought he needed someone to help him. So they picked Brunelleschi's old rival, Ghiberti. Brunelleschi was angry. He knew Ghiberti had no idea how to build the dome. So Brunelleschi pretended to be sick. While he lay in bed, all work stopped. Finally, the guild members told him that Ghiberti could do nothing without him. From then on, Brunelleschi alone was in charge. It's interesting, isn't it, guys? Donatello the sculptor. The greatest sculptor of the early Renaissance was known as Donatello. As a young man, Donatello helped Lorenzo Ghiberti decorate the doors of the baptistry in Florence. Later, he worked with Ghiberti's rival, Brunelleschi. It seems that Donatello and Brunelleschi visited Rome together to study the ancient ruins. Donatello drew from these experiences when he created his well-known sculpture, St. George. On the rectangular base of the statue, Donatello carved a scene from the popular legend in which St. George battles a dragon. According to the legend, there was once a fierce dragon terrorizing a town. The people fed the dragon sheep, but the dragon demanded humans. The unlucky victims were chosen by lottery. When the daughter of the king was chosen, she went to meet her fate. But St. George arrived just in time to save the princess and slay the dragon. Before leaving the scene, St. George converted all the townspeople to Christianity. And there's the scene there at the bottom, guys, if you see that. It's hard to see. Um, The standing figure of St. George that Donatello carved is a proud and confident warrior. His strong, muscular form shows through his armor. His watchful eyes and his slightly turned stance make him seem ready for whatever challenges may come his way. In this strong, watchful warrior, the people of Florence must have seen the embodiment of their own spirit. Okay? A little barrel. Alessandro di Mariano Filippi, no, Filippi was his real name, but he was called Sandro Botticelli. Botticelli means little barrel in Italian. It is believed that the nickname was first applied to Botticelli's older brother. And when young Sandro went to live with him, people started calling him Botticelli too. While the nickname doesn't bring graceful images to mind, Botticelli's paintings are known for their grace, elegance, and beauty. Botticelli was born in Florence in 1455 CE. He was first apprenticed to a goldsmith and then later to a famous painter. In 1481 CE, he traveled to Rome, where he spent a year painting the walls of the Sistine Chapel. The Sistine Chapel is located in the Vatican, where the Pope, the head of the church, lives. Botticelli's most famous painting, The Birth of Venus, shows a scene from classical mythology. Botticelli painted Venus in a pose from an ancient Roman statue, then added his own touches, such as the flowing hair and the almost sad expression. The wind gods blow gentle breezes to move the goddess ashore. Botticelli was a famous painter of wealthy patron Lorenzo de' Medici. Lorenzo and his family were one of the most influential banking families and art patrons. They supported artists like Botticelli um, financially so that they had time to create art. In return, the Medici family was admired for their contributions to the art world. However, Botticelli's association with the Medici family ended when the family left Florence after Lorenzo's death. Botticelli lost much of his financial support too. The monk Savonarola, guys, I'm just torturing these names. I'm so sorry. Savonarola took the charge of the city of Florence and became the most powerful person in the city. Savonarola did not approve of paintings like The Birth of Venus. Savonarola's sermons must have affected Botticelli deeply. He stopped painting scenes from classical mythology and turned his attention to religious themes. For example, instead of painting Venus, he painted Mary, the mother of Jesus, but he still painted her with grace and elegance. We are almost done. I think right here, guys, is I'm going to stop and have you finish the rest. So I'm going to move on down. If you guys would read that on your own, you may have to just pause the video just so you can get it read. Okay. I just don't want to miss anything. And this is right here. Oh my goodness, guys. This is an amazing, oops, sorry. This is just an amazing painting here. Oh, and we're going to learn more about this. Okay, this is the Raphael School of Athens. All right. And right